Welcome to part 2 of sound and current data versus beliefs.
This is where we get to practice and put it into play with an exercise, and I get to be the guinea pig. So Michael, what are we doing here?
This exercise has 2 parts, and here's the first part with 4 questions. Are you ready for them?
Oh, I'm not sure I'm ready for multi-part anything, but please continue.
And for you listening in, the questions are in a handout that is a PDF, so you can follow along if you wish to. Question number 1, share a time when going after sound and current data would have been of benefit in contrast to trusting your assumption or judgment. 2, what are the beliefs that caused you to trust your judgment or assumption? How did they get in the way of your being curious? 3, what beliefs would have been more useful? And 4, what beliefs do you have regarding the value or lack of value of being curious?
All right. So the time when going after sound and current data would have been a benefit is I was working with a group of people and a leader that there was a new group joining our group, so it was 2 groups merging, and so I was responsible for helping create an experience that would make sense to this smaller group joining us, which was a larger group. So I didn't have any data. I mean, I literally was asking for data. I didn't get any data on this new group. So it was a merger, basically. And so I made an assumption. What if I were joining this group? If I were joining, what would I need to know? And so I made a set of assumptions about what I would need to do. And I didn't have information. And I wasn't. And so I presented. So I sort of made this assumption about this is what was needed. And I didn't get really curious. I didn't actually take the effort. So this goes back to making, asking, putting yourself out there and not being afraid to upset the apple cart, and asking questions about what this group really needed.
Right. So what happened?
What happened?
Yeah.
So I created an experience, and I shared that with the group that I was working with, who were also helping lead this merger, and they tore it to pieces.
Okay.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
It was a really one of the most probably one of the most difficult conversations I've been in my career. It was just, it was not a difficult conversation. It was just it was a complete waste of my energy and time and everyone else. They just tore it to pieces.
Mm-hmm. Okay, good. So
yeah.
What beliefs cause you to trust your judgment and assumptions in this case?
Well, I believe that I knew what most people joining the organization that I was part of needed to know, because I'd worked in the space for a while. So I made a lot of assumptions about this group joining and what they needed to know. So that I just sort of believe that my point of view around what was needed was probably the
Correct.
better point. Yeah, correct.
Fascinating. That's what we all do.
Right.
How did that assumption, how did that belief get in the way of your being curious?
I think that I think what got in the way was that belief that I knew, and I knew what these people expected was one thing, but I think more importantly, there was that the other part of why do people not ask for sound and current data. I really just didn't want to. This project was a prickly. It was a porcupine project, I call it. That anything you touched, you were gonna get poked. Anytime you tried to approach this thing, it was such a porcupine project. There was so much misinformation around it. There was so much fear around it that actually asking a hard question would have resulted in a lot of pushback. So
At least that was your belief that
that
doing.
was my belief.
So that kept you from reaching out and actually pushing harder to get more information.
That's right. So a more useful belief would be, that the information, it was possible to get the information. It was possible to get better information about what people needed. And I should have just asked. I didn't ask. Yeah. So I didn't have a support network was one thing that came out really clearly. So.
Okay. So number 4 was, what beliefs do you have regarding the value or lack of value of being curious?
What beliefs do I have?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think the strongest belief I have is I don't want to make people upset by asking too many questions, because I think there's the belief that I have is that if you ask too many hard questions, people they don't want to work with you. They're like, look, I just need to get the work done. Just get out of my way and get the work done. Stop asking so many dumb questions. That's a very strong belief that I have, and that's a belief based on experience.
And that asking questions is dumb.
That asking questions is dumb. That is correct.
Yeah, so that we should already know.
Let me rephrase that. Asking too many questions, it's not that it's dumb, it gets in the way of doing business. That's a very strong belief that I hold. So pushing and prodding too much pisses people off.
So once again, a set of beliefs that kept you from being curious.
Yeah.
Yes. Yes. That we live in a society that on the surface says that we value being curious, that's how we learn and all of that. But we don't have to look too far underneath that to see where we are really coming from, that being curious can cause trouble. That's why it killed the cat. That's why you're not supposed to be nosy, and you're supposed to mind your own business. And of course, you don't want to upset anyone.
Well, I think it's hard, Michael, when you're in a large organization that has a certain culture, to really, because when you start doing things like asking questions, which I have done a lot in my past, and I currently do, it really does. It's hard because, you're going against the cultural norms, and people really, you don't get things as a result of that. They don't like that you're asking questions. So I think that that's really hard sometimes to navigate in an organization. I also think that as a woman, that it is sometimes difficult, and I'm not saying this is a cop-out, but, there is a phenomena called talking while being female, where your ideas, your questions are not taken as valid as, often a male counterpart sitting right next to you. So I think there's a whole lot of stuff going on there, plus my own socialization around asking questions and pushing back.
So you hear the whole litany, the whole catalog of beliefs that say, don't be curious, do not rock the boat, that to challenge the culture is dangerous. And I'm with you that you've probably had all of those experiences. But your next organization, I ask you to see if you can still be curious, because all those experiences are from your past, and they are only memories at this point in time.
Good point. Thank you for reminding me of that.
Well, that's what we're here for. Okay.
We're moving on because I'm done with that.
Let's move on to part 2. It's only 3 questions this time, Ronnie.
Okay.
It's okay. Okay. First, share a time when offering sound and current data would have been of benefit rather than withholding it. 2, what beliefs gave you reason to withhold your sound and current data? What beliefs would more likely to have been useful?
Okay. So I do have an example of this. It's something I haven't thought about in a long time, but I've done it more than once. So, I had someone that I was working with, or who may potentially have worked with us, ask me, "Oh, what are they looking for? What are these groups looking for? What are they looking for?" And and so I said, instead of trying to, and I actually knew what we were looking for, but I wanted to remain open to other ideas, other concepts. I didn't want to shape her presentation. Let's just say it that way. So I just said, you should do what you think is right. And so I didn't offer any data to her. And as a result, she didn't get the contract, and she got really upset with me because she said, "You told me to just say what I thought was right, and then I said that, and I didn't get it. And the feedback I got was you didn't listen to what our organization needed." And I said, "Well, and I thought that her criticism was valid because I had a very firm belief that you shouldn't. What's the word I'm looking for? You shouldn't
shape was the word you used.
shape or color or whatever other people's input with your point of view. And you should keep it as open and as clean as possible." And that's how, and I've done that more than once, where I've just said, just do what you think is right, when it's really, there is a right, there is something that people are looking for, and it would have been helpful to that individual to know that.
Mm-hmm. Well, actually, you actually raise an interesting point, that a lot of people do have the belief that if they say something, that the other person will automatically buy into it. That what we say actually will shape somebody else's thought process. And that's just something that we made up, probably from past experiences or something that we were taught. And that may or may not be true. Maybe that person would have made up their own mind anyway. So it's like, what are our beliefs about how much we can influence someone else?
Well, I think it's actually a little bit different than that. I didn't want to give away the answers. I want you to figure it out yourself. I want you to bootstrap yourself. I want you to, come to this with your own, I want you to do the research that you need to do to get your own data to come to this, and with an open mind, and understand what we need to do. Which wasn't 100% fair to her, because someone else gave another competitor the data that they needed to help shape their presentation, and as a result, so I would not have done that. If that other person had asked me, I would say no, whatever. So
either way, you had a belief that
yes,
kept you from sharing information that would have been very useful.
correct.
Now, keep in mind that we always believe that our beliefs are true.
Yes.
So hence, we are not being curious about the belief that is driving our behavior.
Okay.
And that's how we get into trouble. Well,
Got it.
have you learned that lesson now?
I think so.
Good, good.
I just have to remember to do it over and over again.
Well, that's this whole course. We are on automatic so much of the time that to really practice being conscious, being intentional, particularly in situations that are important to us or the people that we are with. So that message rings that bell one more time.
All right. So let's close out today's course. We were talking about sound and current data and versus beliefs. So the memories of what we think are right versus actually getting current data, current information to inform the decisions that we're making, or inform what we're saying to each other. So I think that, to me and to others, I think it's really important to remain curious and open, and always remember, do I have a current set of information? Do I have the current data whenever you are interacting with another person or making a really key decision? Be aware of your assumptions. Michael, anything you want to say before we close out today?
Well, nothing more about sound and current data because you've covered the waterfront there nicely. But I do just want to say a word about our next course, making feedback work. People cringe when somebody says, "May I give you some feedback?" Giving and getting feedback are trials of fire in many teams and organizations. It's just something that we don't want to deal with. Yet, without good feedback, we will lose our way. In this course, you will learn four things. One, how to receive feedback, even the worst feedback, without getting upset. Two, how to give feedback so that it is heard and appreciated. Three, what is systemic feedback and why is it important too? And finally, how to establish feedback loops that will keep you and your human systems on target to accomplishing the goals that you have set for them. That's it.
That sounds great. The next course sounds great. I'm both looking forward to it and dreading it all at the same time.
You
All
can
right,
love
Mike.
it, Ronnie. Trust me. Trust
All
me.
right. Okay, I trust you. So thank you. And I think it's time to say goodbye, Michael.
Goodbye, Michael. And goodbye to you too, Ronnie.
Of course. Until next time.